Welcome back to the Jank Factory, and I am very excited about this Throne of Eldraine set that's going to be coming out at the end of September, beginning of October. I'm going to run through these spoilers with you, and we'll see exactly what kind of jank we can look into going through this here. This is the Jank Factory, and that is what we want to do. So first off, we're going to go through MTG Salvation's confirmed spoilers. And we'll start at the top and work our way down. In case you don't know anything about the mechanics, food tokens are artifacts that you can pay 2, tap, and sacrifice in order to gain 3 life. There are also other cards within the set that use food tokens to do other things. The storybook adventure type cards, they can be cast for their adventure spell, which is really cool. It goes into a special exile pile that you keep your adventures on while they're on their adventures, and then you can cast them for their casting cost for the creature side just as well as you could from your hand either way. So a quick example of that is like this Foulmire Knight. You could, at your opponent's end step, pay 3, draw a card and lose a life, exile it, and then on your next turn, you could pay 1 black mana and play it from exile as the 1/1 Death Touch Zombie Knight creature. Really cool concept here. It lets you get a little bit of extra mileage out of your cards. Makes me happy because I was concerned with them maybe doing double face cards or flip cards of some sort in this set again, and I'm very glad that they're not. So moving into kind of what we got going on here, Silver Flame Ritual has, I guess that's the 3rd set mechanic, Adamant, where if you spend a certain amount of mana of a specific color to cast a spell, it has an additional effect or a replacement effect. So Adamant here, it gives you vigilance as well as putting a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Whereas Adamant and Slaying Fire here is going to make it deal 4 damage instead of 3. So pretty cool stuff overall. As far as cards I'm excited about, I really like Fairy Vandal. We play a lot of decks that draw a lot of extra cards, and the fact that you can get an extra 1/1 counter on this card every time you draw a second card each turn, your turn, your opponent's turn, is pretty solid, and I like that a lot. Run Away Together, extremely flavorful. I love the bounce a creature you control, bounce a creature your opponent controls. You can do it as a combat trick, or you can do it to punish a death or sacrifice trigger, and get yourself another go with an enter the battlefield trigger or something like that. All of that's really cool too. Tome Raider, we've got a 1/1 flyer that lets you draw a card when you ETB. So a little high cost for playing in a deck normally, but it could find a way into like a flyer deck or something like that. And limited is going to be a bomb because just getting a flyer and getting in there pretty easy. Wishful Merfolk, extremely flavorful. I love Merfolk, and I'm so upset that this has Defender. A 2 mana 3/2 Merfolk would be amazing for all kinds of different reasons, but of course it has to turn into a human because that is what is correct, and I guess it has to punish you for being a Merfolk, unfortunately. Witching Well, I love that you can scry off of it. There seems to be a decent artifact theme going on with this set. You can scry, you can draw a few cards later on. Maybe a 1 of or 2 of in certain decks. Bake into Pie, destroy a creature, create a food token, 4 mana instant speed. That's a decent removal piece, kind of a replacement for Vraska's Contempt. It does only target creatures instead of planeswalkers, and it does destroy instead of exile, so that is something to keep in mind, but it is a decent 4 mana removal spell. Eye Collector here looks like a great 1-drop to replace Stitcher Supplier in any kind of self-milled deck or dredge deck or reanimator deck or anything like that, because it actually takes away some resources from the opponent as well. Foulmire Knight, we discussed already. Order of Midnight. This one's amazing. 2 mana to return a creature from your graveyard to your hand, and then another 2 mana to create a 2/2 flyer that can't block. That is a great card. I love that card. We've got the Smitten Swordmaster, Curry Favor, very much a knight-centric card here. You can gain life and force your opponents to lose life, where X is the number of knights you control, and it's a 2/1 with lifelink for 2. So worst case scenario, it's a Child of Night and limited, but if you're building into a knight tribal deck, it's pretty solid. Sir Conrad the Grim, 5 mana, 5/4, legendary human knight. Just the text on this guy for an uncommon is hilarious to me. Whenever another creature dies or a creature card is put into a graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or a creature card leaves your graveyard, Sir Conrad the Grim deals 1 damage to each opponent. So I can imagine dropping like a Tameo on turn 4, dropping Sir Conrad the Grim on turn 5, milling for 4 with Tameo in a very creature-heavy deck, triggering 1, 2, 3 times off of that with Sir Conrad the Grim. It's very interesting to me. I like it. Crystal Slipper, flavorful. You know, you drop it, +1/+0 and haste. I like it. Embereth Paladin, haste 4/1 that can be a 5/2 if you spend at least 3 red mana on it. Slaying Fire we covered. Beanstalk Giant. I've been having a lot of fun with this guy in the Brawl event. I'm playing the Bant deck, and being able to basically rampant growth and then get a huge creature later on is really nice. I quite like that. Now we're getting into something awesome. Gilded Goose. A 1 mana 0/2 flying bird. When it enters the battlefield, you create a food token. For a colorless and a green and a tap, you can create a food token. For a tap and sacrificing a food token, you add 1 mana of any color. So this is a fixed-ish Bird of Paradise, and I like that they have the Gilded Goose here and the Oko Thief of Crowns next to each other, because you could legitimately turn 1 Gilded Goose, turn 2 Oko Thief of Crowns, +2 create a food token, and then you could be at friggin' like 5 mana on turn 3. I mean, it's amazing. Like, you drop a mana for the goose, you drop another land, you tap the goose and sack the food, play Oko. You create a food token with Oko, then you play another land. I mean, it's so good. So good. Oko here, I like that you can create a food token. I like that an artifact or creature loses abilities and becomes a green elk with power and toughness 3/3. That's pretty sweet if there's a card that has a lot of abilities and things like that that could cause an issue. If somebody's got a Judith out, and Judith is, you know, it's a sacrifice deck, and you see that coming, you got that extra power coming off of Judith, you can +1 Oko here, turn her into a 3/3 elk with no abilities. All the other creatures they control lose a power. All the other creatures don't benefit from dying the way they would if Judith were Judith. So that's pretty cool. And then I like that you can exchange control of artifacts or creatures with power 3 or less with an opponent with the -5. Marrowleaf Pixie, it's a awesome callback to the old guys Skyfolk to me, and that makes me happy. I like the blue-green fairy combination. It's super exciting for me. Wintermoor Commander looks like it's going to be a pain in the butt to deal with. A Death Touch that gives another knight indestructible when it attacks and has toughness equal to number of knights you control. That's tough. That's tough to deal with there. Fireborn Knight, this is the first hybrid card I think that we've seen. Yes, so far this is the first hybrid card that we've seen. and I'm happy to see the hybrid costs back here. It reminds me of the old lore when Shadowmoor blocked, where you had all the hybrids. This is kind of right in line with what I would have expected to see back in that block too, with the double strike and being able to pump it for its CMC and everything. Golden Egg works well in conjunction with any kind of artifact deck that's trying to dig through the deck and get more artifacts on the field. It also provides you a little bit of flexibility there, where you can pay a mana and sack it to add a mana of any color, or pay 2 mana and sack it to gain 3 life, just like it's a food token. So that's pretty cool. Heraldic Banner, you choose a color, creatures of the color get +1/+0, and you add 1 mana of the chosen color. That's a pretty solid 3 mana rock. It's going to be better in Brawl and Commander, I believe, but it could find its way into like a mono deck of some sort, maybe. I just don't think it will very well. Tournament Grounds, this is our first land that we've seen, and this is pretty sweet to me. You can add colorless mana with it, no problem. It's uncommon, which is great for draft and sealed. And then you can add red, white, or black to your mana pool to play a knight or equipment spell. That's pretty sweet, because that seems to be the colors that the knights are mostly in. So I'm sure we're probably going to see something similar like that, where you have the Sultai colors for fairies, and maybe man, I don't even know, because the themes are mostly knights and fairies so far. I hope there's more merfolk. I would be happy to see more merfolk, but I'm sure there's other tribes that are built into this, so that's something to look forward to. Witch's Cottage, another uncommon. It is a swamp. It's not just a uncommon black land that enters the battlefield tapped or anything. So that's great. It's an actual swamp, so if a card says you can search for a swamp, like a Farseek or something, then you'd be able to use that to get Witch's Cottage. It can enter untapped if you have 3 or more swamps, so if this is the 4th land you play in a deck that's running a bunch of swamps, whether they be shock lands or not, it comes in untapped. And when it enters untapped, you can put a creature from the graveyard on top of the library, recur a threat. Seems good. Here's Garrick the Cursed Huntsman. I don't know what to say about this guy other than it's good to see him back. I've been missing him, and I am very happy to have him back. He's a 6 CMC this time with 5 loyalty. His 0 effectively adds a loyalty counter whenever one of the 2/2 black and green wolves dies. -3 to destroy creature and draw a card is really good. And then the -6, where you have an emblem of creatures, you can only get +3/+3 and trample. I can see running this in like a crazy deck that wants to run Ritual of Soot. So you drop Garrick the Cursed Huntsman, you create your 2/2 wolves with the 0. The next turn, you Ritual of Soot the board. The wolf tokens die. You immediately jump to 7 loyalty. You can -6 and give all your dudes +3/+3 and trample for the rest of the game. Pretty darn sweet. Flaxen Intruder here. I mean, it's Goldilocks. We got the 3 bears. I'm guessing that's Mama Bear down here, Papa Bear up here, and Baby Bear around her neck. It's flavorful. It's on point. I never thought of Goldilocks as a berserker, but I guess it works, sort of. 7 mana to generate 6 power on 3 bodies. So not terrible, but not the best. She is uncommon, so you have to expect that a little bit. But her static combat damage ability, where you can sacrifice it and destroy an artifact or enchantment, that's pretty cool too. Now she's a 1/2. She's not going to attack profitably against a lot of stuff, but at the same time, you know, having that option down the road at some point is not bad. Ember's Shieldbreaker here, you got Battle Display, some sorcery adventure, destroy an artifact, and then play a 2/1 Human Knight. Lovestruck Beast, also flavorful, on point. You can turn 1, create the 1/1 white human creature token. Turn 2, try to protect that token or buff that token somehow, or just play a ramp spell. Turn 3, drop the Lovestruck Beast, and you've got a 5/5 that can attack as long as you got that 1/1 creature. You run that with Raise the Alarm and a couple of other token generators from Guilds of Ravnica, from the Selesnya Guild, and you can just keep profitably attacking with a 5/5 for 3 mana much more easily than you ever could with Wayward Swordtooth. Although I did like the ramp more. Mace of the Valiant, 3 mana, gives +1/+1 for each charge counter whenever creature ETBs. Under your control, put a charge counter on. So our equipment is using charge counters to some extent. I'm hoping that's going to be a theme down the road as well. Silverwing Squadron. This looks pretty sweet. It's a very interesting finisher, maybe in a token deck that's using March of the Multitudes to play out a bunch of dudes. Call 6 mana for a 1/1 Flying Vigilance seem bad, even if he does make a 2/2 knight for each opponent you have with Vigilance when he attacks and becomes a 2/2. That's still really bad. So maybe March of the Multitudes can make him work. He's obviously a commander, or not commander, a Brawl deck guy. So, it's something that is not meant to break into standard strongly, just like the Shimmer Dragon, the Workshop Elders, and the Chittering Witch here, but you never know, they might. Shimmer Dragon, great in an artifact build, having a 6 mana flyer that's a 5/6 that has conditional hexproof and card draw on it. Nice, especially if you're trying to build something like my deck, the Hyper Beam Cannon with Tezzeret, where you got a lot of artifacts on the field anyway. There's another alternate win condition there. Same thing with Workshop Elders. 4/4 for 7 mana that gives all your artifact creatures flying. It makes your servos into Thopters if you're playing Saheeli, so that's a thing. And you can turn any non-creature artifact into a 0/0 creature and put 4 counters on it at the beginning of combat. So, not terrible. It probably could see some play in some decks. I like it, but I'm going to play with it and brew. This is exciting. Human Warlock. I love Warlocks. I'm glad to see that we're starting to get Warlocks. Making rats equal number of opponents when it enters the battlefield, and then having a second creature, 2 mana, get something -2/-2. That seems good, especially if you pair it up with the little Piper dude that comes later, who's also a Warlock. The Embrus Skyblazer, conditional flight, as long as it's your turn. When it attacks, 3 mana, and the creatures get +X, whereas number of opponents you have. This guy probably is not going to see play in Standard. I may not even want to brew with it, just because it's in red, and red's not a color I like to play as very much. This fella, on the other hand, I really do like. The Steelbane Hydra. It's a Turtle Hydra. X, green, and then you can pay 3 mana and remove a counter to destroy an artifact or enchantment. I think that's an incredible Hydra. That can run in like a Hydra tribal deck with Gorgos or whatever his name is, and Bioessence Hydra, Voracious Hydra, and Krasis. I mean, so good. So good. We've got Thorn Mammoth here, 7 mana, 6/6 that fights whenever it ETBs, or whenever another creature you control ETBs. Alela, she is the Brawl commander for the Esper Fairy Brawl deck. It's basically just flyers with artifact sub-theme. Banish into Fable, pretty cool whenever you cast it. If you control an artifact, you copy it. And if you control an enchantment, you copy it. So you can potentially play this and copy it twice to have 3 copies of the spell on the stack without any additional spells to do it, like Repeated Reverberation or anything like that. And you can bounce a non-land permanent, and make a 2/2 white knight with vigilance for every copy of the spell that goes on the stack. That's a fun one. That could work in maybe a Jeskai build with Ralzeric, so you can copy it up and potentially get 6 bounces and 6 2/2 white vigilant knights. Chulane, this dude's amazing. I love playing with him in the Brawl event. I love the card draw. I love the ramp. I love being able to bounce Frilled Mystic back to my hand over and over and keep casting it. He's a great card. I'm probably going to be brewing with him in standard decks quite a bit. Gluttonous Troll, honestly, is a pretty darn cool card. Trample 3/3 for 4. You get a food token for each opponent. You can sacrifice another non-land permanent and give it +2/+2 until end of turn. It's a sack outlet for 2 mana that buffs itself when you do. That provides at least 1 piece of fodder to sack with it on its own, so that's good. Knight's Charge, low cost, aggressive spell that gives Knights some late game inevitability, so that's going to be pretty sweet if people are starting to build Knights and everything. And that artwork, just look at that artwork. I love it. You got like bird knights flying in the air. Reminds me of like the Sky Knight Legionnaires from Ice Age a little bit. I mean, the artwork on a lot of these cards is amazing. I'm just cruising through them. Maybe I'll do another video about artwork later, after we have all the spoilers. Corval, the Fey-Cursed King. This is the commander for the Jund deck, Brawl deck. Another great sacrifice element to add in. I know a lot of people usually play Mardu for their sacrifice decks, but turning to Jund might prove more late game consistent if you're running Corvald in it. Sir Gwyn, Hero of Ashvel. I mean, it's red, white, and black. Probably my least favorite 3-color combination. Vigilance Menace 5/5. Cares about equipment. Lets you draw a card and lose a life whenever a creature that's equipped attacks, and it gives all your knights equipped 0. I mean, if we were in a meta where we had friggin' Stoneforge Mystic and Pierce Steel Paladin and Swords of X and Y and Batter Skulls and everything, I'd like him more. And he's probably going to make a great commander deck. Not so much Brawl deck. I've played against it twice on Arena, and it's very easy to beat. Arcane Signet, useless unless you're playing Brawl or Commander. Tome of Legends, also the same. I guess you have 1 lore counter, so you can draw a card off of it, and it still counts as a artifact for you. Circle of Loyalty, 4 colorless, 2 white, legendary artifact. 1 less for each knight you control. Creatures you control get 1/1. Whenever you cast a legendary spell, create a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance. 4 mana, tap, create a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance. Amazing card. It's a great replacement for Banalish Marshal, in my opinion. And it just kind of feeds itself over and over and over again. Midnight Clock, very cool artifact. Taps for blue mana. It's a mana rock. You can force more hour counters, but each upkeep you put an hour counter, so your upkeep, your opponent's upkeep. And when the 12th one happens, you shuffle your hand and graveyard into your library, and then draw 7 more, then exile it. It's a great way to recur your deck down the road. I like it a lot. Then you got Piper the Swarm. I love this guy, and he is probably going to be amazing in Standard. I don't remember what the card was, like Ogre Slumlord, something like that, where you had that back in the old Ravnica block, Return Ravnica block. You had that, and then you had the rats where you could, like pack rats or something, you could discard cards and make rat tokens. Last time we had a rat generator like that in Standard, that was a strong deck. Granted, it was mono black devotion, so they had access to a lot of really cool stuff between Return to Ravnica and Theros block. And considering we're going to be sandwiched between a Ravnica block and a couple of Ravnica sets and a Theros set, based on what they're saying, we're probably going to see some sort of Devotion or Chroma like that again. Great card, 1/3 for 2, gives Rats Menace. I love it. I love to play like Burglar Rats and force my opponents to discard cards. Hopefully they get a reprint in Throne of Eldraine. And then Rankle, Master of Pranks. 4 mana, Fairy Rogue, Flying Haste 3/3. And whenever it deals damage to a player, you can choose to either have every player discard a card, every player lose a life and draw a card, or every player sacrifice a creature. Also, love him. Amazing. I am looking forward to playing with him quite a bit. Especially, like, it's fairies. Fairies are Sultai, mostly, from what I'm seeing here. I love the Sultai color combination, and I am looking forward to that. I'm probably overall most excited about Gilded Goose here, to have a decent 1 mana ramper that's any color that will keep working along. But there's a lot of great stuff showing in this set so far, and the flavor is definitely on point as far as a fantasy fairy tale set. Let's refresh and see if there's anything else popping up now. Okay, nothing else right now. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Leave me some comments down below. Let me know what you guys think about this set. I'm really excited. I'm really hopeful. And I'm hoping that the rest of the spoilers will live up to it. We've got 219 more to go. And I am really looking forward to it. Anyway, this is the Jank Factory. I am Logrith. I'm happy to have you guys swing by and take a look at this stuff with me. And happy magicking, everyone. Happy magicking.